Hello and welcome back to NWR's Virtual Healthcare Conference. My name is Max Dunn and I will be your host for this session. Next up, we have Microba Life Sciences, listed under the ticker MAP. Joining us today is CEO Dr. Luke Reid and Vice President of Therapeutics, Professor Trent Munro. Before I hand it over to Luke, I do remind participants you can ask a question via the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Luke and Trent, please go ahead.
Thank you, Max. Chronic diseases are the leading cause of death and disability worldwide. They affect 6 in 10 people. We all know a loved one that's been impacted by either cancer, depression, diabetes, inflammatory bowel, heart, or another chronic disease. But what you might not know is that gut health, and more specifically, the gut microbiome, which is the trillions of organisms that live in your gut, are actually a key missing piece in resolving many of those chronic diseases. And because of that, our investment thesis at Microba is that these organisms represent one of the biggest untapped opportunities to improve human health. This will see microbiome testing and therapeutics become a routine part of healthcare. And we believe at Microba that we have the best technology in the world to unlock this. And with that foundation, we are continuing to execute on establishing a dominant global position in both microbiome testing and in therapeutic development from the microbiome to capture that opportunity. This is our standard disclaimer. I'll just move past that slide. Our commercial model to capture this market opportunity is summarized here. We deliver testing services globally to clinicians, consumers, and research clients together with market-leading distribution partners. These services build our large proprietary microbiome data bank with consented and de-identified customer data. We then mine this large data bank to discover and develop multiple novel therapeutics to ultimately execute big pharma out-licensing transactions on those assets. Microba is a data-driven biotech company. We are commercial stage and already delivering global revenues. We continue to deliver year-on-year revenue growth. We have established global microbiome testing distribution partnerships with market leaders driving a scalable global testing business. We believe that we have the most valuable microbiome data bank in the world. And from that data bank, we've developed a data-driven drug discovery platform and established 3 therapeutic programs, with our first lead drug candidate targeting ulcerative colitis progressing to a phase 1 clinical trial expected to commence before the end of the financial year. This is a fast growth emerging market, which we're capturing with world-leading technology supported by peer-reviewed publications, and our 2 co-founders who are leaders in the field and in the top 1% of cited researchers globally. And underpinning this, we have a world-class team, including one of Australia's most distinguished clinical scientists, Professor Ian Fraser, inventor of Gardasil, the cervical cancer vaccine, which now does over 5 billion in annual sales for Merck. And our head of therapeutics, Professor Trent Munro, who joined us last year from multinational biopharmaceutical company Amgen based in California, and joining me on this call. We now have multiple large strategic shareholders, including global medical diagnostics leader Sonic Healthcare, and New York Stock Exchange listed synthetic biology leader Ginkgo Bioworks. This is in addition to our long-term supportive shareholder base from across the globe, including the United States, London, Hong Kong, and Singapore, together with some of Australia's most well-regarded small cap growth funds, including Perennial and Thorney. I'll give you a bit more of a summary of the company in a moment, but first I wanted to highlight some of the significant milestones from recent months. Firstly, for our testing services, Sonic Healthcare, the second largest healthcare company in Australia with a $14 billion market cap, took a 20% stake in Microba and kicked off a distribution partnership to deliver our testing technology into their 7 major markets. This bolsters our balance sheet and also added to our bench of leading healthcare partners. We've also continued to expand access to our testing across Europe with Europe's largest medical diagnostic company, SYNLAB, signing and delivering first sales in Italy, Portugal, and Turkey. We also launched just 3 weeks ago a next generation test range to healthcare professionals in Australia, which is executing on a key part of our strategy to move microbiome testing deeper into healthcare and towards a state where it is ultimately a part of standard of care and ultimately as routine as a blood test. For our therapeutic programs, firstly, our inflammatory bowel disease program, we received positive formal feedback from the FDA for our IBD preclinical package supporting our upcoming phase 1 trial. And we progressed manufacturing all the way through to encapsulated drug product and commenced GMP manufacture ready for our upcoming phase 1 clinical trial. And finally, for our immuno-oncology drug development program, we received first positive animal data showing a significant reduction in tumor size in a mouse model of melanoma. First, I'll take you through our testing services, which is driving our global revenue growth, and then hand over to Trent to summarize the rapid advancement of our therapeutic programs. For our testing services, we are building a leading microbiome testing company with advanced testing products, pioneering at the forefront of this field and delivering them to market through a globally scalable partner distribution model. We have the world-leading technology for analyzing the human gut microbiome. This is the foundation of the company, which enables us to deliver accurate and comprehensive testing solutions and build the data set to discover novel therapies at the forefront of this rapidly growing field of health and medicine. We launched our first testing product using this technology to consumers in 2018 to equip them with accurate information to manage their gut health through personalized dietary change. Since then, based on growing demand we've seen from healthcare professionals and how the clinical science has progressed, we've been working to develop and bring to market a test that can support practitioners to understand and use this information to support better patient management. And after a significant body of work, we have launched that test to healthcare professionals in Australia just 3 weeks ago. This test combines diagnostic gastrointestinal health biomarkers together with Microba's advanced metagenomic gut microbiome markers. This targets a large addressable market in patients with a disorder of the gut-brain interaction related to the bowel, which impacts over 30% of the population, together with individuals with a chronic health issue, which may be influenced by their gut microbiome, which is estimated at over 20% of the population. So this test represents a significant expansion to the total addressable market for Microba's testing products. And following the launch in Australia, we expect to roll this new test out through our international distribution network. The new test range called MetaExplore provides comprehensive GI testing solutions. It is the most comprehensive GI testing solution available on the market, with over 25 markers of gastrointestinal and microbiome health, over 100 clinical and research insights graded by levels of evidence using NHMRC guidelines, and Microba's world-leading comprehensive microbiome profiling, all wrapped up into a clinical report format for a healthcare professional. This has all been built hand in hand with clinicians. The response from the market has been strong after announcing the official launch, and our distribution partners are also excited to launch the product internationally. To fully capture the commercial opportunity in front of us, we need both world-leading products like MetaExplore and exceptional sales and distribution of those products. Aligned to this, we've been building a powerful distribution network, which really took a step change in maturity in late 2022 as the world fully came out of COVID-19. This distribution partner model enables our partners to access our platform to launch and deliver a microbiome test powered by our world-leading technology. We have carefully constructed and continue to grow this powerful distribution partner network to deliver our testing technology into the hands of clinicians and patients globally. And this is what that leading bench of healthcare distribution partners looks like today. Sonic Healthcare was a significant addition to our bench of leading healthcare and pathology partners signed in November 2022. Together, Sonic, SynLab, Genova, and G42 Healthcare provide us with strong access into major global healthcare markets. Sonic in the UK, Germany, Switzerland, Belgium, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States. SynLab covering Europe and Latin America. Genova providing deeper penetration into the United States. And G42 Healthcare covering the GCC region in the Middle East. These partners now provide us with access into 35 countries. And as I said before, most of this came together just late last year. And now with the recent addition of Italy, Portugal, and Turkey with SynLab, we've activated operations into 8 of those 35 countries. So with those foundations, growth lays ahead of us as we progressively operationalize and activate these countries to provide Microba-powered testing to clinicians and their patients. We expected in this financial year to go from 4 countries operational to 8, and we've executed successfully on that to double our distribution base. Into FY24, we will continue to progressively roll out across more countries, and this is when we expect to see the impact of revenues from the new Sonic partnership. In addition to growing international revenues, those services also generate high-value data, which enables us to discover and develop novel therapeutics. And we're making strong progress across 3 therapeutic programs. So I'll now hand over to Professor Trent Munro, our Head of Therapeutics, to run you through our therapeutics business.
Thanks very much, Luke. So it's really, as Luke pointed out, an exciting time here at Microba, and particularly as we think about where we're headed for our therapeutics part of the business. We've been made significant progress since the ASX listing last year, and now we're excited to be moving rapidly into the clinic. I think if we look more at a global level of what's happening, we're also enthused at the first FDA approval of a microbiome drug. And that really sets Microba in a prime position to come through and pinpoint important therapeutically relevant biology and use that data driven by our precise microbiome platform to develop novel therapeutics. We have a pipeline that we're really delivering with compelling biology, distinct mechanisms, and a strong preclinical safety profile. As Luke pointed out, we've been able to demonstrate our ability to scale our manufacturing. And matching this, importantly, we've built a really strong multidisciplinary team with experience from across the globe, and together with that, a range of global partners that support these development efforts. Next slide, please. The heart really of all of this is our data-driven platform for drug discovery onto the microbiome and our analysis technology and proprietary data bank. This platform now is really paying dividends, generating multiple potent therapeutic candidates. This overview provides the way that we think about using a data-driven platform to go from that large proprietary population data bank through to therapeutic leads, taking those through preclinical assessment, and then moving into clinical trials. Next slide, please. As we've discussed, we've separated out the therapeutics program into 3 key areas. The first of these is inflammatory bowel disease, the second, a program in cancer immunotherapy, and the third is a broader program at the discovery stage looking at the opportunity in autoimmune disease. If we look at our inflammatory bowel disease, we're looking at targeting a novel therapy for patients suffering from ulcerative colitis. In terms of milestones, we've completed manufacturing scale-up, moved through pre-IND advice with FDA, have a HREC submission underway, and in the middle of GMP manufacturing to support phase 1 commencement scheduled before the end of the financial year. I think importantly, this transitions Microba from a preclinical company to a clinical stage company, and is an important advancement in Microba's therapeutic development activities. For our cancer immunotherapy program, we're targeting the development of therapeutics to improve response rates in cancer patients receiving immune checkpoint inhibitor. And as Luke mentioned, we're excited to see the first of that data come in, showing our ability in an animal model to have a reduction in tumor size, and I'll share some more details on that in a moment. Our autoimmune program, while earlier than the other two, is also a critical program for Microba, as it lets us really think about how we do large-scale screening to move forward to select valuable therapeutic candidates in this large potential therapeutic area. This program is progressing quickly. We're starting to see the first in vitro data come back, and we're looking forward to sharing an update with investors by the end of this quarter. I think the other key aspect to this program is the partnership with New York Stock Exchange listed and Boston headquartered synthetic biology leader Ginkgo Bioworks, who was a cornerstone investor in our IPO. I just wanted to spend a moment focusing in on our inflammatory bowel disease program and MAP315, which is our candidate. This, as it progresses into the clinic, is really an important opportunity for the company. There are more than 7 million IBD sufferers globally, and ulcerative colitis is one of the major disease forms. The existing drugs for these patients are primarily focused on anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory activities, which dampen disease and control symptoms, but don't really get to the heart of resolving problems or the root cause of disease. As a result of this, it might seem surprising that more than 50% of these patients are unable to achieve sustained remission from this debilitating condition. And I think when we think about microbiome, that's really where we've got the potential to provide a novel and important therapeutic by addressing this key gap and root cause of this disease, which is the gut lining and healing of that, what's known as epithelial restitution and mucosal healing. We know that this is associated with remission and reduced risk of surgery, but the current drugs simply don't address this. Our lead candidate, MAP315, has demonstrated potent epithelial and mucosal healing activity in our preclinical models, and therefore could be an important new treatment paradigm for patients living with this debilitating disease. This is also a very large market opportunity. Drug sales, 7.5 billion last year. So we see the commercial opportunity alongside the compelling biology. Along with the preclinical development has really been how we're preparing to move into the clinic. And here I wanted to highlight the progress we're making in this emerging modality space. With our manufacturing partner, we've progressed all the way through to drug product, and you can see some capsules that are produced in our pilot scale run there in the image. Now we're in GMP manufacturing, which is the next stage as we prepare for our phase 1. This has really been a challenge for others in the microbiome sector. We've overcome this both through our precision approach and taking a single strain modality view of therapeutics, and also with our partnership with a leading CDMO in Europe, Bacthera. Alongside this, we had an opportunity to get formal feedback from FDA around our pre-IND, through some pre-IND advice by looking at our package. And we were pleased to see some positive result, and that really helps us think about preparing for our HREC submission, which is now underway in support of our phase 1 trial. The second part of this is it also lays out the roadmap as we think about what our global phase 2 study looks like for ulcerative colitis. Next, I want to move on and talk about our cancer immunotherapy program, and I want to run you through some of our recent positive data here. So while we continue to progress and think about our strategy for building a strong preclinical package, we're really enthused by the early data that we have. We are targeting the development of a therapeutic to improve response rates in patients receiving immune checkpoint inhibitor therapy. And again, from a commercial opportunity and an opportunity to support patients, both of these we see as compelling in the oncology space. If we take the example of the leading checkpoint inhibitor drug on the market, that has been selling in excess of $5 billion a quarter, and that's a drug called Keytruda from Merck. So we think, the opportunity there to look at enhancing that response remains significant. We understand the complexity in the space, but we believe microbiome has a key role to play. As part of that, the team identified multiple leads over the last little while, has now isolated those brought them into laboratory testing, and we've had our first chance to test some tumor models. Importantly, the tumor model we chose to look at this initially was a checkpoint refractive model of melanoma. Really wanted to set the bar high here to convince ourselves that if we saw some interesting biology here, that we knew we had some immunological mechanisms to go after as we think about taking this product into clinical testing. So we engaged a number of SMEs in the process to ensure that the model we chose here and the data we have would lead us to think about future investment. And I really want to say that these preliminary results are very encouraging, and through the significant decrease in tumor volume that we saw through our leads. And so that helps us think about now our acceleration into clinical development. And we really look forward to sharing more progress over 2023 on this. If we now focus out and look at the bigger picture, there's a few really important things happening in the microbiome space. As I mentioned, we saw a major catalyst for the microbiome sector last year, and that was the first FDA approval of a microbiome product for rebiotics. And now we're expecting a second milestone coming up in April for a company called Therapeutics. These first two drugs of the microbiome are really important to show a clear path to market, but they're also what we would call first generation microbiome products. And based on fecal donor materials, they're also targeting an unmet need in recurrent C. difficile infection. So while these are important for the microbiome sector, we also believe it sets the scene for a bigger opportunity in rationally developed microbiome drugs, which can be manufactured at scale to treat millions of patients globally and address unmet needs in chronic disease setting. And our therapeutic assets and our data-driven strategy really put us at the forefront of this. So with a clear regulatory path and our transition into the clinic, we believe this puts Microba in a strong position to develop these assets at the right value inflection point in sync with other partner opportunities, including working with big pharma and biotech. With that, I'll hand back over to Luke.
Thank you, Trent. So overall, with our world-class team and technology, we continue to make significant progress in capturing this rapidly emerging market. We have a range of important milestones on the lead up to the end of the financial year, which will advance the company and unlock value for shareholders. Growth on the services side, but importantly, becoming a clinical stage drug development company with our promising novel precision microbiome therapeutics. As at December 30, 2022, we had $42 million in the bank. The company is in a strong position to execute its services growth strategy and advance the company's therapeutic programs. From both the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference in January and subsequent meetings, the positive change in temperature with major pharma companies has been very clear following the FDA approval, providing a clear path to market for these new drugs. And for our lead program in inflammatory bowel disease, we just saw a great comparable of how valuable inflammatory bowel disease assets are with Prometheus Biosciences. Unrelated to the microbiome, but targeting the same indication in inflammatory bowel disease, they announced a positive phase 2 readout and immediately rocketed to a $5 billion market cap. That is a great example of the potential opportunity we believe lies ahead for Microba. So I genuinely feel we're in the right place at the right time and with the market-leading technology. So I'm very excited and optimistic about the company's future, and in particular, what will be unlocked for shareholders over the next 12 months. And on that, I'll hand back to you, Max, for questions.
Thanks, Luke. And just a reminder to everyone on the call, you can ask a question via the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. First question here is, can you share some more detail on the distribution partnership revenue model for the testing services business?
Absolutely. Thanks, Max. So it's a scalable, high-margin business. I'll speak generally, not to disclose any specifics for a given partner, but a partner sells the test for between $300 to $600, depending on the market. They produce the testing kit, under license from us. They handle all of the sales, marketing, and distribution with their customers. We also enable them to perform the laboratory processing of the patient sample in their lab to produce the raw data. We then receive the raw data and process it with our world-leading technology to generate a report for the partner to deliver back to the clinician and the patient. Microba then charges a partner per test fee of circa $80 to $100, and we earn a 95% margin on that per test fee. So it's a fantastic scalable business for Microba that's growing with the expansion and operationalization of that international distribution partner network.
Thanks, Luke. Next question. The recent Sonic Healthcare partnership is exciting. What are the next steps to get the distribution relationship into motion?
So we have a very clear partner success program that we're progressing through. Firstly, we always ensure that the scope and nature of the distribution agreement is right and clear. Responsibilities, fees and pricing, volume commitments, legals, all of that stitched up. And we're progressing well. We're at a late stage in that progress. Once agreements are completed, we will implement our partner success program covering technical API integration for the report, white labeling and delivery, logistics and wet lab implementation, including training on the protocols and assay validation in their laboratories. And most importantly, sales and marketing activation, including marketing material support, team training, and boots on the ground time engaging with key opinion leaders and other customers. And we start that as soon as we reasonably can. This is all progressing well with Sonic, and there's a particular focus first in Australia and also in Germany, but there's been strong engagement already across the rest of the Sonic network.
Thank you. Can you tell us a bit more about what the new MetaExplore healthcare test is used for?
Absolutely. So first I'll explain what the test is. We're testing specific proteins and microorganisms in your gut. So it's a small, non-invasive collection of a stool sample. There's a kit with sampling devices that's sent to your home. One sample, that sample then goes back into a reply paid envelope and sent express through the post. It's then received by the lab and processed. And the output that you get is a report, which is the most comprehensive and accurate gastrointestinal test available, comparing your results to a reference range and providing summarized information for the healthcare professional on how they can address out-of-range markers within that test result. Typical patients are individuals working with a healthcare practitioner with gastrointestinal issues or a chronic health issue which may be influenced by the microbiome. So this includes gastrointestinal disorders like irritable bowel syndrome, intestinal permeability, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO as it's known, and inflammatory bowel disease, broader digestive complaints, constipation, diarrhea, bloating, reflux, stomach pain, but then looking more broadly into the chronic and systemic implications of the gut microbiome, hormonal imbalances, metabolic disease, mood disorders, fatigue and brain fog, immune system disorders, chronic inflammation and allergies. There's a range of case studies that I could run through, but that might be for another time. But we're really excited about that new test and the engagement with healthcare professionals across Australia.
Thanks. And Trent, you spoke to those first-generation microbiome drugs which have been approved or are upcoming. Can you further explain how the Microba is developing is different and what this means commercially?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Great question. I think importantly, there's been the progression of thinking about leveraging the microbiome and the biology for drug development. And as you mentioned, that is those first generation of products. The key aspect is there that they generally use donor-derived materials to achieve that. And obviously from a supply chain and complexity of product, that is a difficult proposition. But we're seeing the path cleared from the FDA with those products, as I mentioned, Rebiotics, and hopefully an upcoming approval for CERES. That's also in a really important unmet medical need, which is in the infection space for recurrent C. difficile infection. But there's really limitations to that technology and what can be done and how you think about scalability. And Microba is really thinking about what does that look like. We know that clinician and pharma companies want rationally designed products. They want things that they can scale that look like other products in their portfolio, but deliver a differentiating mechanism of action. So that's where our data-driven approach, our precision microbiome analysis technology really comes into play, where we can get down to what are the signals, what are the organisms that are driving that compelling biology, and then develop GMP compliant processes that go through a more traditional drug development process, albeit with the speed that's afforded by our platform. So we're able to think about that. We're able to go after chronic disease settings that are both important to patients and have got also significant commercial opportunity. And that's where we're headed.
Thanks, Trent. One last question here to you, Luke. You spoke about the ability to do big pharma deals. Can you tell us a bit more about what you aim to achieve there?
I'll let Trent take that one, and I might add on top.
Sure. Thanks, Luke. So, I mean, in the microbiome space, we've seen deals done at the early stages, and what we mean by that is really a transaction with a pharma company that supports a future partnership. So, typically, you could think about a total deal value somewhere in the 500 million to 1.5 billion range, but that's really broken up into several parts. The first is an upfront payment that lets the work get underway and is supported by pharma. The second is thinking about what are the milestones, whether that's development, regulatory, sales. And then the third important part is that long-term royalty that comes back if the product makes it to market. And whether that's single digit through to low double digit, that really provides that long-term value in those deals. We've seen FDA approval now. We've seen interest in pharma and understanding the microbiome and what microbiome-based drugs look like. We continue to build our relationships there, and we think we're in a leading place both from a technology and platform view to move those forward. And we're excited by that.
Yeah, I'll just add on that. So we've got these really interesting novel therapeutic assets, and we have a genuine platform for drug discovery from the microbiome, which is quite unique in the Australian biotech landscape, that we're actually discovering and developing drugs with a platform that can do this repeatedly. So we have the opportunity to do potentially multiple of these big pharma transactions through time, or execute a really major pipeline type transaction with one partner that's committed to fully exploiting the value that we can deliver through that platform. So it's a very exciting opportunity and something that we are really eager to get into the clinic and start to demonstrate safety and efficacy on, which we will do very shortly.
Thanks, Trent and Luke. That concludes this session.